Welcome, everyone. This is a new opportunity for all of us. We're going through some very interesting times in our economy, in our states, in our country, and globally. So what I'm doing to really support the community of not just athletic training, the profession, but also the individual athletic trainer, is we're really focusing on our core value and our core mission of bringing tools and resources to you to help you understand how you can advance your career. So this is one of many installments of bringing new ideas and new opportunities to you to help you and your family be successful moving forward through these uncertain times. And today we have Jeff Olson working with us. Jeff Olson is a two-time Olympian, three-time national champion, Pan American gold medalist in skiing. So obviously I worked with the U.S. ski teams. That's how Jeff and I got connected many years ago, just through the sport. And he's been in health and human performance for over 30 years, between being a pro career and business career. And now he's the CEO and founder of Healthy Living Agency. And he's passionate about what we're talking about because he, like many of us, he has 3 daughters and a loving wife. And we don't know what's going to happen moving forward. How long are we going to be in isolation? How are we going to build relationships if we're not able to see each other? But that's what Jeff has built throughout his entire career, is how can we manage and expand our relationships through healthy eating and use it as a catalyst for our personal and professional success. So I'm excited to have Jeff on the call today. And we're really just going to brainstorm. I'm going to give him some insight into the profession of athletic training. He's going to give some insight into how healthy eating can impact not just your athletes, but possibly you and your family, and then how we could possibly leverage this for your own personal career. So let's welcome Jeff, and then Jeff and I are just we're gonna wrap for a little bit, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. So Jeff, welcome.
Well, thank you, Adam. You and I have been chatting over the years, and it's nice to finally hit the ground here conversationally. All possibility occurs in a conversation. So I love what you're doing with Innovate AT. For the last 15 plus years, I have worked with medical professionals, health professionals, wellness professionals, fitness professionals, elite athletes at the Olympic level, at the world championship level, professional level. And this little tiny niche of athletic trainers has been a kind of a blind spot for me in terms of how can I add value to the profession. And when I saw what you were doing with Innovate AT, trying to help athletic trainers think bigger, play bigger, level up, go pro, whatever, cliche you want to use, get on the field of play and, skill up. I got really excited because, athletes in that mindset, tend to be ruthlessly practical and they will do what works, but you got to know about what works first and kind of be enlightened. So I think this is going to be a tremendous platform for your profession. So I'm excited to be here.
No, that's great. We'll just kind of dive in so the viewers really understand what Healthy Living Plus is. And just so you know about our demographic, athletic trainers traditionally work in what I call institutional settings, high schools, colleges. They work with pro teams, they work in clinics. And one of the challenges of our profession is we've always just been an expense in the budget. And athletic trainers want to make more money, but unfortunately we've always been just an expense and there's no money coming in for our services. So what's starting to happen is athletic trainers are starting to migrate away from what we call the traditional setting and going into opportunities where they work for themselves or they work for small businesses and trying to support their family. So our athletic population, our customer base is now, or our client base, if someone is in business, ranges from sometimes 10 years old up into their 80s. So let's talk about how Healthy Living Plus can really impact their patients or clients, depending on how they define them, from a performance explanation. How does it impact their performance, their health? Let them know a little bit about the science and some of the publications, the research that you guys have put into it, so they really understand the validity behind Healthy Living Plus.
Yeah, look, I'm in the business of functional food. So, at a high level, what's my playground? It's functional food. Health food, functional food, supplemental food. We sort of sit between supplements, which is a sort of a hornet's nest of problematic and the produce aisle and health food and functional food is really, think of it maybe as a health food technology, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But in the end, if I'm trying to be empathetic to athletic trainers today, and I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, I would encourage you to just look at your profession. And this is just third party outside looking in, right? And I speak this way to doctors, to RDs, to trainers, and everyone else. And now I'm, in the athletic space, which is really my alma mater. And I said, you got to think bigger, man. And I would submit that in your community, in your tribe, in your congregation, in your center of influence, you're in the business of health and human performance. And I say human performance is pregnancy. Human performance is better circulation for a diabetic. Human performance is better recovery, right, for an athlete. But getting the body to work better and getting it to higher ground is a performance equation. And we in the athletic world speak the language of performance, and helping, just civilians, access that term performance in a civilian sort of way. Like, oh, maybe I could level up and get, more energy, right? Or maybe I could level up and, get better circulation if you're a diabetic. Now, I am not a certified health professional. You all are, right? I was speaking at a doctor's conference 10 years ago. He challenged me. He's like, how are you talking to us about biochemistry and nutrition? And you're not a certified nutritionist. I said, you're right. I am not a certified health professional, but I do work in health professionally. And dropped the mic, audience paused. I had a beer with him afterwards. I think, just thinking like a professional is really thinking like an entrepreneur. Athletes are entrepreneurs on the field of play. They're resourceful. They take initiative. They're thinking, what's next? How do I do? Problem solvers, and they are on it, right? Nothing, it's just the same in business. And when I was able to translate all my athletic past into thinking like an entrepreneur, hustle, what's next? In the gig economy and the side hustle economy, we have to think smarter. And so being in the space of functional food, bringing it into athletics, I had, you got to first add value, right? And so we come into this conversation in health and human performance. And I don't care if you're an elite athlete professional athlete headed to Tokyo, or you're a weekend warrior Spartan, or you're a type 2 diabetic, or a type A personality, or the greatest generation or next generation. I don't care who you are. Because when you go inside the human body, what brings the body to life and what makes it work is sort of universal applied science. And what we try to do is help the athletic profession expand their understanding of what food, diet, nutrition. Food is a weapon, and it cuts both ways, and it can be a weapon of mass destruction or a weapon of mass vitality. So when we come in and say, look, food is a weapon, I don't care who you are. And basically in the sports world, in the sports nutrition world, there is a traditional thinking mindset, kind of the dogma of carbs, proteins, fats, macronutrients, calories. And that's the frame of reference that I come in and enter. And I say, well, are you familiar with nutrient density? And yeah, I understand nutrient density. Do you understand what it does to the body? And if anyone's seen the movie, the Game Changers movie, that's kind of a provocative, athletic sort of, cold water in the face to say plants, nutrient-dense foods, do other things in the body that help drive human performance. And what are those things? We talk about, with athletes, we talk about building stronger, building faster recovery, right? The adaptive response, right? Building what I call physiological durability. Food does things to the body over time. There's a compounding effect. And you don't need a PhD, you don't need a certification to understand that you need energy, you need calories, you need carbohydrates, you need matter, you need proteins, amino acid to build stuff, right? But all that other stuff that has no calories, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, antioxidants, probiotics, phytochemicals, tens of thousands of these things. What that stuff does, that's non-caloric, think of it as an iceberg, right? The iceberg, 20%, you see that's carbs, proteins, fats. What resides below the water, 80% of that iceberg, 80% of whole foods, the majesty of whole foods is phytochemicals, phytonutrients, 10, 20, 30,000 of those things. And what that does is provide biotechnology, just-in-time inventory to do stuff in your body. And inside the body, there is a conditioning and compounding effect that food has, right? It doesn't happen in a day, in a week, but you get in the gym and you play that game over years and something happens. Same thing with eating, right? And so I ask athletes, how many, let's say, fruits and vegetables are you eating today? And they kind of laugh at me, right? Because it doesn't service a caloric requirement. It doesn't service that demand for, 6, 7, 8,000 calories a day, and it's sort of low man on the totem pole. But one of my professional goals is to help pull sports nutrition into the 21st century. And I actually call it human performance nutrition, because it's my belief human performance nutrition is a higher form of sports nutrition, because it fuels for physiological performance first and sports performance second. How many athletes do you know that are fit but unhealthy, right? And we have to get you physiologically fit before you get on the field of play. And that's just basic health 101. That's applied science. And so food does activate stuff in the body. It regulates stuff in the body. It modulates stuff in the body. And what do I mean by that? Activation, modulation, protection. So in modulation, like here we are, we're all in quarantine. Immune system function, immunity, immune system strength, building immune system strength. I can give you a laundry list of athletes that were headed to the big show, the big game, the moment, the Olympic moment, the Super Bowl moment, the Tour de France moment, and they got taken out by a common cold, a common bug, puking in the Olympic Village, diarrhea during the Tour de France, and their immune system, elite athletes sometimes or very often have a very fragile immune system. And that has to do with nutrient density. That's number one. Modulation, activation. What do I mean by that? Activating energy output. That has to do with mitochondrial density. I don't have time to get into that, but blah, 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 blah. We can activate stuff. We can modulate stuff. We can protect stuff. And what that drives is a stronger adaptive response, physiological durability, and faster recovery. So in the athletic world, that's a thing, right? But it also can be a thing for your grandpa. It also can be a thing for your wife, your spouse, your kids, or your aunt, or your neighbor, right? This is lifestyle, and lifestyle drives outcomes, as we all know. And between lifestyle and human performance, I think there's an incredible opportunity for athletic trainers to expand their scope of practice, if you will. Talk about scope of practice, and think beyond being an employee. What would a business owner, what would the employer think like, right? And help them think bigger. And that's what you're doing at Innovate AT. And mine go on and on, but we'll leave it there for the moment.
No, that's a great segue into really what we're doing for the athletic trainer. Is the athletic trainer has always been the hub of information. And for the athletic trainers listening, we know that we don't know everything, but we have the direct channel to get the answer from the expert. And what we're doing with Innovate AT is we're leveraging that relationship, we're leveraging that opportunity to give you, the athletic trainer, the keys to your future. So when you are working at a school or you own your own business, you are the hub of information, you are the resource expert. And we all know there's athletes and parents that are always, and coaches that are always asking us about supplements. What should we eat to perform better? And we might just refer them to a grocery store. We might be a Gatorade school, and that's who we're recommending them go find some supplements from. But what if you really had a stronger and more beneficial toolbox that can not only benefit the athlete, but can also benefit you sometimes financially? And that's really what Jeff is talking about, is like, let's put our business owner hat on. I joke, athletic training is sitting on $1 trillion industry, because we have what every other discipline wants, which is in healthcare, which is the patient pool. Athletic trainers have trust of millions of people every single day. They're asking us questions, and we're helping you guys bring that to the forefront of monetization and your professional career. So that's really why Jeff and I are talking for you, is to help you realize, hey, if I have this mental shift, people ask me questions. And what if I give them a trusted, scientific-based solution to help them perform better, but it also might benefit me? So then my 2 pain points go away. And all of us know in athletic training, there's 2 major pain points. I don't make enough money and I'm overworked. Well, with Innovate AT, we're really, really focused on making that in a past pain point. We're trying to come up with solutions. So let's dive a little bit deeper into, you've worked with so many different healthcare fields and so many different practitioners. From your experience, yes, there's the science, yes, there's the need, but what about the human behavior of the practitioner to say, okay, I know this has value, but now how do I explain it to a customer so I don't come off, I'll say it, as a cheesy sales, car dealer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Yeah. So there's a couple things going on there. We got sales, and we got money, and we got time, and those are loaded terms, man. So this is all fantastic. And I had all of these same concerns and issues. And here's my challenge, right, to listeners is there is a bell curve in life. There's a bell curve in athletics. There's a bell curve in academics. And I'm trying to access the right side of your bell curve, your A game, right? And you can challenge me. You can Shark Tank me. That's awesome. But I'm going to Shark Tank you right back. And so the typical mindset of a practitioner, and that when I say practitioner, I'm talking medical, health, fitness, wellness, athletic. The typical mindset of a practitioner is you're a service-based provider. You do services, right? And you know your services, and you offer your services, and you promote your services, and you sell your services, and people buy your services. Here's the thing about sales. No one likes to be a sleazy salesperson, but the world buys. The world buys. And what if sales actually was a noble pursuit? And that's a whole other, seminar, right? What if sales, and I had this training when I left professional athletics and I finished my degree and I went to work post-athletic career, my first job, suit and tie, working on Wall Street. Mentor said to me, Jeff, and I had a big hang up with sales because I was coming right from that perspective of a sleazy salesperson. He said, things are going to go one of two ways, Jeff. You're going to kind of understand or come to understand that sales is actually honorable or it's not. And I guess you have to figure that one out. When you believe in what you're doing, you gift and share information, right? And so for the service worker, we got to begin with educating them on the idea that if you believe that goods and services can drive outcomes and drive income, then we align philosophically, we align ideology, goods and services. Because right now you're a service worker, you're a service employee as an athletic trainer. You're an employee, you're probably low man on the totem pole, low woman on the totem pole, you're an employee, right? And you're a service worker. And so what if you began to think of yourself outside of your job as a business owner in the world of helping people, thrive, and understanding goods and services can drive outcomes and income? Then it's up to you to go find those goods that amplify your services. And that's a treasure hunt. That's your homework. That's your due diligence. And so what we do is we come in and say, we've got an evidence-based functional food that drives outcomes and income. What part of that don't you get? Do you want to know more? So that's kind of where we begin with the practitioner. And not all practitioners are entrepreneurially minded. Most practitioners just want to do their job and that's it. And that's fine. But we're looking for the right side of the bell curve, the more entrepreneurially minded practitioner, if that makes sense.
No, that's perfect. I mean, it's very powerful because even for me, I'm listening to it and everyone can always take advice, self-reflect and say, what can I do more? What can I do better? How can it improve my outcomes? And I even made a post today that this climate is making a huge impact, not just on my business, but our family business. My wife is in healthcare and all healthcare practitioners, unless they're testing for the virus, are supposed to not work because they're at risk of getting sick or passing along the illness. So even for myself, I'm just sitting here reflecting like, okay, what else can I do? So hopefully for the athletic trainers listening, they realize that there might be a new norm. It's not going to go back to exactly the way it was. Social distancing, I don't think is going to maintain at this level. I think the space that we are in and people are isolated, when people are able to go back to human connection, sports is going to be at a higher rate of involvement and participation because people don't like to be alone. They like to have human interaction. So I think for the athletic trainers that are in business for themselves or they have a side gig and they are really communicating with the athletes themselves or coaches or organizations, if they have been at home and they haven't been eating well, right? They didn't have all the access to healthy foods and vegetables and they go back into playing. Are they going to get injured? Is our workload going to go up? But does that create an opportunity for you, the athletic trainer, to have another resource, have another tool in your portfolio and another tool in your toolbox to improve the outcome of the athlete? But really what we're talking about today is also improve your bottom line. and how can your family thrive? So I think this is awesome.
Well, you said something, at some point things are going to return back to normal. And I want people to just imagine we're back at normal now. Okay. And you're still underpaid and you still are looking for more time in your life. Right. And if that's the normal that you want to go after, then you probably just want to, keep on keeping on. But, life is a game. We're all athletes in the game of life, and this is a hustle. And if you want to get, ask, seek, knock, and you shall find. And so here's Innovate AT. And, let me give you an example of how physicians use our functional food, because they've found a stronger healing response pre and post op with surgical patients. So, I can go down the rabbit hole and get into the science, and we can get real geeky. Here's the thing that kind of you need to know at the outset. We will never embarrass you. Our functional food company has been around 27 years. We're one of the leaders in the industry. We have over 38 published clinical studies, and that's randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled. And we have them across populations, across institutions, across all kinds of aspects of human physiology. I'll give you one example that relates to human performance. Is we did a 7-month study looking at anaerobic threshold and the biochemistry that takes shape right around that 70-80% anaerobic threshold, and diet, all the same, elite athletes. Actually, they were military, Cobra Special Forces, so they're all on the same diet plan. Intervention with these plant powders, no intervention, placebo. And the biochemistry during anaerobic threshold goes wonky. And what happens is oxidizing proteins. You can eat proteins, but protecting proteins is a whole other thing. In the oxidative damage, you can oxidize fats, that's lipid peroxidation. You can oxidize carbohydrates, that's glycation. You can oxidize proteins and damage proteins, and that's through a biomarker called protein carbonyls. So understand at the outset that, one of the concerns, you go back to your main point. I don't want to come off as a sleazy salesperson. Once you're armed with the knowledge, you will have a professional obligation to impart this education and information to your tribe. So.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. You started talking about the physicians and the science, and I know you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. What we're really focusing on with Innovate AT is capitalizing on an opportunity that exists within the change of healthcare, that the government defines healthcare really as an insurance system. So those are the providers that work within hospitals, that work within clinics, and really it's just insurance reimbursement. That's how the government defines healthcare. So the practitioners that provide that level of service usually were, or used to be, I don't want to say usually because now that's changing, used to be in private practice. But now because venture capitalists and enterprise money and corporate medicine is taking over, a lot of these providers that used to be in business for themselves and they would hang a shingle and they would be a staple and a pillar in the local community, now they just work for a big corporation. So when you have had these conversations with some of those providers in all disciplines, from chiropractors to orthopedic surgeons, massage therapists as well, PTs, when they've made that transition from independent practice to corporate, how has their response been in regards to, I'm seeing a patient, I get a paycheck from my employer, but now I'm armed with this really knowledge and opportunity? How are they capitalizing on that?
It's a great question. Really, it's an important question. I'm glad you brought it up. So you're going to be an employee, but what about the rest of your life? Right? You've got a job, but what about the rest of your life? And think of this as a side hustle, a gig that you can do outside of your employment. Maybe or maybe not, your employer will understand, and you can educate your bosses and your people and your decision makers as to the evidence and the efficacy and the professional responsibility you feel you have to bring to bear as an employee in your scope of work, right? We can help you with that, obviously. That's just a matter of, I'll give you an example. A physician we work with was challenged by his partners around using this functional food in practice. And he challenged them right back, right? It's like talking smack, right? Someone talks smack at you. If you got game and you know what you can do, and he threw it right back at him, and it went all the way to the Georgia Medical the Georgia Medical Society presented the evidence, and the Georgia Medical Society backed off, because what's the standard of care? Standard of care is first do no harm, and then it's evidence and efficacy, right? And so he presented the evidence and the efficacy, and it was overwhelming, and they backed off. And so to answer the point, as an employee, you may not be allowed to be an entrepreneur, inside your employee time. So you got to think the rest of your life, your neighbor, your church, your community, you're in health and human performance. When someone looks at an athletic trainer, a civilian, I call them civilians, I don't know why I say that, but just the average Joe looks at an athletic trainer, is like, man, you got game, man. You're in the fitness, you're in the health, you probably know stuff, right? You have influence. There is no question that you have influence. The only question is right now you're renting it out as an employee, which is fine. You get a paycheck, and that's good, and that's your profession, and you're passionate about it. But it's plus, right? That's where the plus comes in. You're going to be an employee plus maybe be an entrepreneur and have a side hustle outside of your brick and mortar day job. So does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. And this is the point I stress every single day when I have personal conversations with athletic trainers, which really highlight what we're doing and why it's so revolutionary within Innovate AT. Our profession across the board in every single city, in every single state, has two major pain points. I don't make enough money and I'm overworked. And when I ask that athletic trainer, when was the last time you gave advice to an athlete that is not part of your team? So if you work at a high school, when was the last time you gave advice to a parent or an administrator or a former athlete? If you're at a college, when was the last time you gave advice to a former athlete? And every single one of them says, I actually have a text in my phone that I haven't responded to yet. So all of us are giving away free advice. The only reason we don't make more money is because we don't ask for it. And I stress that to the nth degree. It's not the National Athletic Trainers Association's responsibility for you to make more money. It's not your high school. It's not your college. It's literally up to us. And that's why Innovate AT is saying, okay, who's accountable? Well, it's us, right? If you're not pointing the finger back at yourself, you're never going to go anywhere. So we're creating these opportunities for you to say, you know what? I do have all these people asking me advice. And sometimes they ask me advice about food. And they ask me advice about performance, and they ask me advice around health. And sometimes they even ask me, hey, I think I have a cold. What doctor should I go to? Well, maybe, you know what? Maybe you should look at your diet and try some of this before you even go see a doctor, because I know you've been training at 10,000 RPMs for the last 2 months, training for whatever the end result is. Here's another way to improve performance. So I really want the athletic trainers to realize you are getting asked every single day to capitalize on an entrepreneurial opportunity. And yeah, you might not be able to ask your athletes at your school, hey, do you want to buy this from me? But you are getting asked by former athletes, friends, colleagues about your advice and expertise. So I think this is just super timely with how we're going to come out of this, negative situation and go back to a sense of normalcy, and how can we capitalize on our unique dynamic and not just the healthcare system, and not just the wellness system, but really just in mankind. Athletic training is one of a kind, and everybody knows it. And we're really trying to bring that to the forefront. So hopefully this helps you guys.
I remember a conversation I had, 10 or so years ago, speaking at a medical conference. And, in my era, and tell me if this has changed, and I think it has, but, sports medicine, that term sports medicine, was really co-opted by orthopedic surgeons. Somehow orthopedic surgeons owned that little word of sports. When you talk about a sports medicine doc, you immediately thought of an orthopedic surgeon. And if you understand sports and what sports is, and I talk about it, I try to level up just with a narrative, words matter, right? Words matter. And all sports is human performance, right? And so I try to reframe the narrative to human performance as a way for other people to access what I'm up to in the world. Sports, people's brain shuts off. If I'm not an athlete, my brain shuts off. But pregnancy is human performance, right? And I can talk to a diabetic about leveling up and getting, look, healthcare, you talk about changes in healthcare, right? Between accounts receivable and cash flow, well care and healthcare. we're in disrupted times. We're in new times. We're in unprecedented times, historic times. And in those times, it's the gamers that come out stronger. And if you just go back to normal, you're going to have, still, you're not going to be paid as much as you think you should, and you're still going to have less time. And so, we have something that is tried and proven. I've been in this game, 17 years. We drive outcomes and income. We create cash flow, outcomes and income, and talk about, the functional food that we have. If you want to, I can unpackage that a little bit more if you want, but the invitation is to reach out to Adam and say, hey, I want to know more about this because you got my attention now, right? So I'm leaning in and I'm ready to be coached and taught because maybe I have a blind spot on things I don't even know. And that's where growth, discovery, and a higher game happen. And that's what entrepreneurs and that's what athletes do is they find out blind spots, those incremental things that can flip the script and help you, get to higher ground. So.
Yeah, when you said reach out to me, we could probably do a little bit more information grabbing and push out really what Healthy Living Plus has to offer, what some of the tools are, if it's research, if it's the actual supplement, or the powder, right? How they can use it, just so they get a greater understanding around it.
Yeah, let me just at a high level. Okay, I said at the outset, functional food. What are we talking about? We're talking about supplemental food, functional food. And what do I mean by that? We have pioneered for 27 years. I've been involved 17, 18 years. Plant powders, right? Plant powders. So in the pantry shelf of your brain, understand plant powders are not traditional vitamin pills, right? It's plant matter, plant powders, right? And what plant powders do in the body is have a compounding effect. What I teach food conditioning with plant powders. I just enrolled USA Volleyball. I work with a lot of Olympic athletes. We used to be the food, functional food for the German Olympic Federation, the Austrian Olympic Federation, the Swiss Olympic Federation. We are just about ready to do a deal with the U.S. Olympic Committee as the functional food for the U.S. Olympic Committee. And Procter & Gamble came in and spent $110 million and bought the category, bought the whole home health category out. So working with athletes, I asked them, are you familiar with food conditioning with plant powders? No, yes, okay, no. And I just enrolled all of USA Volleyball this way. I said, nutrient density does things. And so what our plant powders do is they get in your body every day. It's part of your regimen, and they have a compounding effect. And what you're going to notice over days, weeks, months, and it's months, it's not days and weeks, it's more months, because there is a time, a compounding effect here is you're going to begin to notice things. And we give them sort of an outline of some expectations. But plant powders is really our wheelhouse. And so we pioneered produce concentrates, plant oils. We've got a whole plant-based approach to omega-3, 5, 6, 7, and 9. Most people don't even know those exist. But we are in the functional food category, more specifically in the plant powder category. And then we back that sort of, does that make sense? We back the common sense and simplicity of that up with 38 published clinical studies that have your professional back. So.
No, I'm also thinking as you're talking, there's a lot of athletic trainers that are actual athletes themselves, and they might do CrossFit games, they might ski, they might be really active like myself. So don't just look at it from the professional level, look at it from the personal level. And this might be something that brings your sports and activity up to the A game as well.
Well, I can give you graphics and images and decks and we don't pay professional athletes to take our product. Professional athletes take our functional food because it works. And we've had MVP at Super Bowls, entire NFL teams, entire MLB teams, entire basketball NBA teams, Tour de France athletes, across power, across finesse, across aerobic, across anaerobic sport at the highest level, pounding these plant powders because there is a human performance advantage. And so for weekend warriors, this is a no-brainer. For a pregnant person, this is kind of, here's the deal. If you don't eat 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, that's the market. Who do you know that doesn't eat 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day? That's our market. And athletes don't eat a lot because it doesn't service that caloric requirement, and they have not been educated as to why this can drive their performance. So that's the opportunity.
No, that's great. I think we'll just continue to build this relationship. We'll work on another, call it a webinar, another video.
Yeah.
That dives in a little bit into the science, and
Yeah.
maybe another one that talks about the
people
product.
can come and poke the bear, and we have a lot of, we'll have some fun.
Yeah, we can do a lot of it, and we'll probably do a live one, right? So then we can really have some Q&A in there and have people register, so we know who's going to be involved.
Yeah.
And then probably just wrap it up with what you think they want to know. How can they get more information now before we do those other webinars?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, very simple. We can send you information. I would encourage you to do your homework, do your due diligence, and maybe commit during this time of, so a friend of mine sent me a term, and it's an ancient word called Selah, S-E-L-A-H, and it means sort of to pause, ponder, and reflect. And we're kind of all going through this right now, and maybe now's the time. If this is of interest to you, say, hey, I want to learn more. And I would say, the invitation is to, get some education so you can make a powerful yes to move forward, or no, not for me, and move on. So if you want to know more, I would just stay close to the fire, close to Adam and Innovate AT, and we can get on the phone, we can get on a conference call. Adam's job is to put me to work for him with y'all. So there's the invitation.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, so just stay tuned. But I'm excited to strengthen this relationship, strengthen the opportunity for you, me, and then every athletic trainer and their athletic population, wherever they live and who they serve. So let's all stay happy and healthy during this time, and we'll keep the conversation going. So with that,
thanks, Adam.
For another day. No, you're welcome. Talk to you soon.
Look forward to it.
See ya.